Call to order, Budget and Personnel Committee meeting, June 14th, 2022, 6 p.m. At this time, I will entertain public comment, which there is none. So we'll forego that, and I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to the first item on the agenda is the Excise Tax Distributions. I'll turn that over to Mike. Mr. Talbot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an item that is left over from our FY22 budget. Per the time code, as you all know, 10% of all meals tax is dedicated to tourism, with 5% being distributed to Shindig Center and 5% going to the Chamber of Commerce. The FY22 budget provided a fixed sum of $110,000 of meals tax distribution, and the way this is done is we distribute 5% of what we take in for that month to the Chamber and 5% to the Center. This year, due to the high tax revenues that we had in meals, both of these entities reached their budgeted value by March, and after March I ceased more distributions to the Center and the Chamber, just because we would be in excess of our budgeted values. It's of no consequence to the Chamber, to the Center, because that is all coming back to the town in a few months anyhow, so they're fine. The Chamber has raised the question of why they were capped. To review that quickly, in June of 2018, and I apologize for the typo there, but in June of 2018, the council voted to cap distributions to meals tax. That was tabled immediately until the Meals Tax Committee could meet. After the Meals Tax Committee met in March of 2019, they recommended against the cap, and at a subsequent meeting of the town council, the council rescinded their motion and elected not to cap meals tax. So that's where we stand. The meals tax is not capped. However, it was budgeted at $110,000 for this year. They did reach those two entities reached that distribution cap, or the budgeted amount for that in March. So once we distributed the last amount of that, I ceased any more distributions to both entities. So the question has been raised by the Chamber. Should they, since there is no cap in place, should the council vote to continue their distributions and also give them back distributions for the months of April, May, and June? So that's the question before the committee.
My question is, but there is a cap of $110,000, right?
It was a budgeted amount. There was no physical
Okay.
cap put on it, but it was budgeted at only 110. If it had been budgeted at 50, we would have cut it off at 50.
And we've met that 110
Yes,
for
ma'am.
FY22.
In March, we met that. That's correct. Guess I should have told you what we currently show in that. Bear with me 1 second. At our last meeting, I'll remind you of meals tax collections as of the end of April, which were actually the collections as of the end of May. Our meals tax totaled $1,267,000, $267,634. 10% of that, of course, would be $12,673. I'm sorry, $120,000. What they would be.
I guess my question is that if we budgeted for 110 to disperse and we've met the 110, I don't understand why we would disperse any more, and then review it. Well, I guess what have we got for 23? 110,000 too?
What, the $110,000, of course, when you split that in half, each entity would have gotten $55,000. Right now, as of the end of May, both entities would have received $63,000 if we had kept going.
And we have
And of
100,
course-
110 budgeted out for
Yes.
FY '23?
No, yes, FY '23 as well.
But the ordinance doesn't have a cap in it, just because our budget is
Right.
capped.
Right,
The ordinance doesn't have a cap.
right.
So I guess you can make the statement, a true statement in saying the ordinance is effectively capped at the limit that that item was budgeted during our budget process. By the same token, if we had budgeted more than we had actually collected, I would still be making those payments up to the point where we could no longer do that.
Right, which could happen at any time. I mean, in the future. I mean,
Yes.
That could always happen.
Which is what, we always, as you know, try to budget revenues conservatively, so we
Right.
don't have that happen.
I mean, I think you gotta stick with the non-capped personally, and I'm biased, but it doesn't, our ordinance says it's not capped, just because we didn't budget properly. You know, I think we need to stick with non-capped process. When you want to start capping it, you need to really go back and redo the ordinance to some degree, in my opinion. Go ahead.
Has the chamber made an effort to explain why they need the extra? I mean, I know they're short-staffed and
Well, right now, we're going back to all marketing with it.
yeah.
So all the money that comes in goes directly to marketing. So it's kind of a pass-through, is the way we're operating with it now.
Right.
Which is good for the town as well, so the more money that comes in, the more we market. We're not using it on operating now, we're using it for marketing again. So it's just a,
And have they gotten the money from what Billy Joe had said the other night, I think $80-some thousand they're getting?
I'm not sure on that one, that the money's actually come through yet.
If we go back and give them the back payments for April and May, how much is that? April, May, and June?
Right now, it's about $8,000.
Total?
Yes, right now. Now, we've still got, that was through the end of May. We have one more month, and of course, that'll be a bigger month because that'll be May's activity, June's collection for May's activity, so that'll be a bigger month, so it could possibly as much double, depending on what the collections are.
Unless the town has plans to go into the marketing and tourism, I'd say it's a good use to give it to the chamber, because they're the ones putting their effort to see that the town has plenty of revenue.
Does this have to go back before council, or is it decided right here?
Well, I would expect the budget and personnel committee to make a recommendation to the full council. That's the proper way to do this. It's a budgeting issue, so it rightfully so comes before this committee, but I would think since it affects the entire budget, the full council will have to approve it.
So, I agree with Arthur. I mean, the chamber does an outstanding job. I don't want to get into a situation further down the line that, what are we going to budget next year? And if it's, if we got to turn around and give again,
I can
maybe
tell
be
you,
under.
the FY '23 budget has the same $110,000
Yeah.
in there, so, I mean, you, in effect, you're setting a precedent with this decision.
But as I talked with Mike, we need to revisit all this going forward, because it's with the center now not on its
Right.
own.
Mhm.
That ordinance needs to be revisited, in my opinion, going forward, in 23. That needs to be revisited.
Well, I'll make a motion to send it to council to discuss, with the caveat in there that we talk about the ordinance, with, with the center
Well, we
all
could-
including how we're gonna do those.
I'll second it. But again, we probably should pass that along. I mean, we do have an ordinance committee, and they can,
Mhm.
they can look at it, and chop on it, bring it back to us to vote on.
And just to state the motion clearly, the motion is to approve the payments, or send the recommendation to council to approve the back payments and the payment for June, which would be the only future payment we have on it.
Correct.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, that passes, and then Mike, you'll pass on the ordinance.
Yes.
All right, second item on the agenda here, third item on the agenda is the consider employee reviews, and I'll turn it over again to Mr. Talbert with the memo that's included in your packet for fiscal year 23 raises.
Looks like my mouse has squid. No, I'm in the wrong meeting. Can you bear with me just a second? Let me grab my battery. Were you at the club this weekend?
Travis, was up there. He's been-
And they didn't go up there and pull your motor up. She melted.
How do you know that?
I don't know. I don't know if he got something clogged up in the water pump or what, but she was hot.
Come over.
Yeah, I'm hot at B-Max. Yep. He called me, and said that she had cut off. I said, well, did it throw an alarm? Was it still, water squirting out of it, yada, yada, yada? I don't know. I wasn't looking. It's like, anyhow, I went and pulled him in. By the time I went, put the boat over, went and got him, and came back. When I pulled that cowling off, it was still hot. You could feel the heat radiating off that boat.
Zayden all,
That was eight. But all the little plastic pieces in there, because they got all those plastic covers and all that stuff that melted. She got hot. It had to be throwing an alarm.
Maybe the buzzer broke.
No, because when I went back, I was gonna start on him. When I went back later, turned the key, but solid buzzer was going off.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we're ready.
All right, all yours.
So the 2022 employee raises, just to review the process, during employee reviews, supervisors evaluate their employees using a performance management tool by Insperity. It's a software tool that we've been using for some years now. Supervisors rate each employee in 11 distinct competencies, including job knowledge, quantity of work, quality of work, communications, dependability, initiative, judgment, and several others. Each competency is rated from 0 to 5. Once complete, the software calculates a composite rating and suggests a written summary of each competency. Each supervisor does have the capability to modify that in any way or throw it out into one completely on their own if they so desire. Most of us use that at least as a pattern. I'm responsible for collecting and compiling the data for the scores. As usual, the scores follow a normal distribution bell curve. Here is the actual distribution. As you can see, we have a few needing improvement, or I'm sorry, a few meeting and minimum standards. Most are average. We have and a good number of above average and moderately exceeding employees who are doing very well, as you might expect. The numbers for this year's raises, or this year's scores, the average performance score this year was 3.33, which is deemed meeting job requirements. With an average raise of 2.35%, as usual, we budgeted an average of 2.5%. And for FY23, the highest proposed raise is 5%, and the lowest is 1.75%. Last year, the average score was 3.36, with an average of 2.72%. The highest raise was 5, and the lowest was 1.5. Scores this year approximated the bell curve, as they usually do. And as I said, we budget 2.5% each year as an average, just to have something to start with. The table below reflects whether a particular department is over or under the budgeted raise for 2022. As you can see, with the exception of Public Works, we all stayed under. That is due to I believe, a promotion this year. The reason Public Works went just slightly over. The rest of the departments are comfortably under, with a total over and under of being under our predicted raise by $20,739, and that's total. I'm sorry, under our budgeted raise. The overall performance pay increase proposal is under budget by $20,739, which is somewhat similar to last year's $29,467. Employees with recent promotions are not eligible for a merit increase until the next budget year. We feel that's more than fair. And I will say that if you remember last year, we took part-time employees and gave them a COLA, a 1.5% COLA instead of a merit increase. This year we went all out and did each of our part-time employees got a full evaluation with a likewise merit increase. So that did skew the scores a little bit compared to last year, if you're taking note. In addition to the above balance, we will experience some salary lapse due to recent retirements of a few long-time employees. And since these vacancies are not yet filled, the actual value of the lapse cannot be calculated because we've still got a few high-paying jobs we have not replaced yet. We won't know the salary lapse until such time as we do. As I said, unlike FY22, part-time employees for FY23 were reviewed and raises recommending using a tool similar to the full-time employees. And that procedure caused a reduction in the overall remaining balance of funds budgeted for the increase, because they did fare a little better than last year's 1.5% when we give them a full merit evaluation. So after compiling the above analysis, I recommend to the committee to approve the merit increases as presented here for all full-time and part-time 23 employees. And with that, I can answer any questions. There's also, if you have some questions about specific employees, we do have an executive session scheduled for this meeting.
So what was the amount we are under budget? Was it 20?
$20,739.
And that overage will just get rolled back into the general fund, or?
In previous years, that little bit of cushion will serve if we deem any promotions are necessary this year or anything. We've got that in our budget that we can use to absorb any promotions or increases we feel are necessary during the year. Things have a way of working out. It's not necessarily planned. You'll have some retirements and replace those, and you always replace them with someone who's not making quite as much. That's salary lapse. Right. That always helps you out as far as the budget's concerned. But you might say that what we budget for personnel is always usually the worst case scenario. What would happen if everything goes just as it's supposed to, and you've accounted for everybody's promotion and an accurate increase, then this is the worst that can happen. So we always like to say that this is the worst that can happen if everything stays the same, and quite often we do it a little better than this.
Do you want a recommendation now, or do you want recommendation to go to council?
Again, this is
Same.
a budget item that affects the entire budget, so this would, normally what we would do is this committee recommends and the full council approves.
I make a motion that we send this to full council.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And so it moves. All right, next on the agenda is executive session. I'll entertain a motion that council convene a closed meeting pursuant to section 2.2-3711A15 Code of Virginia to discussion of staff evaluation and potential business opportunities.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.